Kale Aaron stood on the observation deck of the starship Eclipse, watching the vast emptiness of space stretch out before him. Stars glittered like distant diamonds scattered across a black velvet sky. Despite the beauty, Kale felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. In just a few hours, he would receive an offer that could change the course of his life and perhaps the future of all human colonies. The Surith High Council, the ruling body of the galaxy's most advanced civilization, had noticed him. Kale, a human, had already accomplished what many thought impossible. He had led a small fleet to secure a newly discovered colony world, outmaneuvering pirate factions and Surith patrols without losing a single ship. His reputation as a brilliant strategist had spread through interstellar channels, and now the Council wanted him to join them. Kale knew the offer was tempting. Sitting on the High Council meant power beyond imagination. Policies he could influence, planets he could protect, even resources he could redirect toward human colonies, all within his reach. And yet, with every thought of ambition, a knot tightened in his chest. He remembered Lyra, her bright eyes and tireless devotion to her work. She had been the first to greet him on New Eden, the colony he had fought so hard to protect. She had repaired damaged habitats, managed resources, and inspired settlers with her optimism. Kale had met many brilliant humans in his life, but Lyra was different. She was a reminder of why humanity mattered, not for conquest or politics, but for hope, for life, for each other. The ship's intercom crackled. "Commander Aaron, incoming message from Admiral Jareth." Kale tapped the console. The face of the Admiral appeared, lined with age but sharp with authority. "Kale," Jareth said, his tone steady, "I know you've heard the rumors. The Surith want to recruit you. The High Council has extended an invitation to join them. You will have a voice in decisions that affect entire star systems." Kale nodded, though the Admiral could not see him clearly. "I understand, sir. It is an incredible opportunity." "It is," Jareth replied. "But remember, with opportunity comes compromise. The Surith are different from us. Their way of thinking, their priorities, sometimes they will clash with what you believe is right. You must be ready to face that." Kale closed the console and leaned against the railing. He had known this moment would come, yet he had never imagined it would feel so heavy. He walked through the corridors of the Eclipse, past the crew who went about their tasks with quiet efficiency. He felt a pang of guilt. If he accepted the council seat, he would be leaving them behind, leaving the fleet in someone else's hands. Yet the thought of influencing policy across multiple star systems, of protecting entire human colonies from exploitation, drew him forward like a gravitational pull he could not resist. Later, in his private quarters, Kale finally allowed himself to think about Lyra. He remembered the first time he had met her, amidst the chaos of the New Eden settlement. The colony had been struggling, its habitat domes damaged by meteor storms, its settlers hungry and tired. Lyra had moved through the wreckage with calm determination, organizing repairs, distributing supplies, and speaking words that lifted people's spirits. She had shown him that humans could endure anything, adapt, and thrive. Kale knew that accepting the council seat would mean leaving her behind. She would continue her work on New Eden and other colonies, while he would move into a world of politics and diplomacy, where decisions were measured in votes and debates rather than hands-on action. The thought made his chest tighten. "Kale." Lyra's voice was soft but insistent as she stepped into his quarters. She looked at him with a mixture of pride and concern. "I heard about the council offer," he nodded. "I haven't decided yet. I don't know if I should take it." Lyra approached him, placing a hand gently on his shoulder. "You've always made choices for the good of others. That's why you're standing here. But remember, power is tempting because it promises control, yet it often comes with sacrifices that aren't obvious until it's too late." Kale searched her eyes and saw truth there. She had always understood him better than anyone. She had fought alongside him, celebrated victories with him, and supported him through losses. He did not want to leave her behind, yet he could not ignore the potential to protect millions of people from the shadow of Surith authority. The days that followed were a whirlwind of preparation. Kale reviewed reports from human colonies, studied Surith communications, and sought counsel from his advisors. He realized the Surith High Council was not merely a governing body. It was a machine of strategy and influence, and every member wielded power like a weapon. He would have to navigate treacherous waters if he joined them. During a late-night briefing, Kale's second-in-command, Lieutenant Mara, approached him. "Sir, the crew is concerned. They hear the rumors and worry about what this could mean for our fleet. Some think you might leave permanently." Kale looked at her, understanding the fear in her eyes. "Mara, I am not abandoning anyone. My responsibility to the fleet is not gone just because I may take a seat at the council. I will still act to protect our people, even if it means facing challenges I've never faced before." Mara nodded, though uncertainty lingered. "Just be careful. The Surith do not think like humans. Sometimes they see loyalty as weakness." Kale smiled faintly. "Then we will show them that humanity's strength lies in loyalty, in resilience, and in heart." A week later, Kale traveled to the Surith capital aboard a diplomatic vessel. The city he encountered was unlike any human settlement, a vast network of crystalline towers, glowing with energy, and suspended in orbit around a massive gas giant. Surith ships patrolled in precise formations, and their citizens moved with an elegance that seemed almost mechanical. The scale of their civilization was awe-inspiring, yet Kale felt a spark of confidence. Humans might not be as advanced technologically, but their ingenuity and adaptability had carried them further than most species could imagine. Kale was escorted to the council chamber, a vast room with a panoramic view of the swirling gas giant below. The council members were seated in a semicircle, each one radiating authority and intellect. They studied him with curiosity, perhaps even admiration. "You are Commander Kale Aaron," one of them began, a tall Surith with silver skin and luminous eyes. "We have observed your actions in human space. Your strategies are unconventional yet effective. We would like you to join us, to lend your perspective to decisions that shape the galaxy." Kale bowed slightly, maintaining composure. "I am honored by your offer. I seek only to serve humanity and ensure that peace and prosperity flourish." The council exchanged glances, as if weighing his sincerity. "Power will be yours if you accept," another said. "Influence, control, recognition. Few humans have ever been offered this. But power is not without cost. Alliances will be tested. Loyalties will be questioned. Choices must be made." Kale's mind flashed to Lyra, to the colonies, to the countless lives that could be affected by his decision. He realized that this was not just about personal ambition. It was about what kind of human he wanted to be. Could he navigate the Surith's world without losing himself, without sacrificing the values that made humans special? He left the council chamber with a sense of both excitement and dread. He had been given a chance to change history, but he also understood that the path ahead would be fraught with moral dilemmas and strategic traps. Back on his ship, Kale paced the observation deck once more. The stars stretched endlessly before him, indifferent to human struggles and ambitions. Yet in that vast expanse, Kale felt a surge of determination. Humans had always been underestimated, always counted out by stronger, faster, more advanced species. Yet somehow they survived, adapted, and thrived. He would carry that spirit into the council chamber, wherever the choice led him. Lyra appeared beside him quietly, as if she had anticipated his need for support. She did not speak at first, simply letting her presence anchor him. Kale finally spoke. "I don't know if I can do it," he admitted, voice low. "I don't know if I can balance duty and heart." Lyra placed a hand over his. "You've always found a way, Kale. You think strategically, you act with compassion, and you trust your instincts. That is what makes you human, and why humans are stronger than they seem." Kale looked into her eyes, finding resolve there. He realized that whatever choice he made, he would carry humanity with him. The Council could offer power, but love, loyalty, and ingenuity, the qualities that defined his species, were gifts no alien could take. As the eclipse glided through space toward Earth for a brief pause, Kale made his decision. He would accept the Council seat, but not blindly. He would enter their world, learn their ways, and influence them, all while staying true to what it meant to be human. He would not let the allure of power erase the values he held dear. The first part of his journey was over, but the real challenge was just beginning. Kale knew that the universe was watching, and every choice he made from this point forward would shape not only his destiny but the future of all humanity. And in the quiet of the observation deck with Lyra by his side, Kale made a silent vow. No matter the cost, he would never let humanity's heart be forgotten among the stars. Kale Aaron had settled into his role on the Surith High Council, though settled was far from the right word. Every day brought a new challenge, a new dilemma, a new test of both intelligence and character. The council chambers were filled with beings whose minds moved faster than most humans could follow, their thoughts interwoven with logic and strategy that often felt alien in its precision. Yet Kale remained determined. Humans had survived for centuries against impossible odds. Adaptability was in their blood. From the start, he noticed how different the council operated compared to human governments. Decisions were not made in debate or discussion. They were calculated, measured by probability and influence. Every word, every gesture, every glance carried meaning. Kale had to learn to read these subtle cues while holding onto his own moral compass. On his first day, he attended a session concerning the protection of human colonies on the Outer Rim. The council presented a plan: new military outposts and strict regulation of resources. On the surface, it seemed beneficial. Yet Kale noticed an undertone: control masked as protection. Colonies would be heavily monitored, their freedoms subtly restricted. The Surith called it efficiency, but to Kale, it felt like surveillance. During the council session, Kale listened and observed, contributing cautiously. His voice carried weight because he was human, and the Surith were intrigued by his perspective. "We must consider the spirit of humanity," he said, choosing his words carefully. "Protection should not become domination. Colonies must retain their freedom to thrive, or we risk creating resentment that could grow into rebellion." Some council members nodded, others remained unreadable. Kale could feel their evaluation, measuring whether he would bend to their ways or challenge them. Outside the council chambers, Kale maintained constant communication with Lyra. Though she remained on New Eden, her reports reached him daily. She described challenges faced by settlers, innovations in agriculture and energy, and occasionally, warnings about Surith patrols acting suspiciously. Each message reminded Kale of why he had taken this role. The council could offer resources, technology, and influence, but Lyra provided the heartbeat of humanity, the people he had sworn to protect. Kale soon realized that being on the council was like walking a tightrope over a galaxy of hidden agendas. He was invited to private strategy meetings where the Surith discussed expansion, trade, and enforcement policies. Here, the darker sides of the council revealed themselves. One member suggested establishing colonies on uninhabited planets, not for settlement, but as testing grounds for experimental technologies and population control methods. The idea was presented casually, as if human lives were mere variables in a complex equation. Kale felt a surge of anger. He took a deep breath and reminded himself of his purpose. Humans were different. They valued life, freedom, and hope, and these council members needed to see that. He proposed an alternative: voluntary expansion with human input, where settlers chose to relocate for opportunity rather than coercion. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Lyra's messages became more urgent over time. Reports of Surith patrols harassing small colonies increased, and rumors of forced labor camps reached her ears. Kale knew he had to act, yet every move in the council had to be precise. One wrong step could mean the loss of his influence and, worse, the destruction of the very colonies he aimed to protect. Late one night, Kale studied star charts and reports alone in his quarters. He traced patterns in Surith activity, looking for anomalies. It became clear that the council had a hidden agenda, a plan to consolidate control over outer colonies under the guise of security. The revelation chilled him. The very people he had hoped to protect were at risk, and he held a position that could either enable or prevent disaster. Kale realized he could not fight this alone. He needed allies, humans and sympathetic Surith alike, who would understand the importance of freedom and life. Reaching out cautiously, he began forming connections with council members who shared his concerns, using diplomacy and reason to build trust. Meanwhile, Lyra organized a clandestine network among the colonies. Using coded communications and encrypted messages, she alerted settlers to potential threats, helping them develop contingency plans. Kale felt a surge of pride and relief. Though separated by light years, their partnership remained strong. Each action they took complemented the other, a dance of strategy and courage spanning space. One afternoon, the council held a vote on a new policy that would allow Surith authorities to intervene in human colonies at will. Kale's heart pounded as he entered the chamber. He had prepared arguments, evidence, and data, but he knew words alone might not be enough. The council members were brilliant, but often detached from emotion, valuing efficiency over empathy. Kale spoke with measured intensity. This policy will place colonies under constant surveillance, strip them of autonomy, and breed distrust. Humans thrive on freedom, innovation, and trust. If we undermine these qualities, we do not protect them, we destroy them. A silence followed. The council deliberated, their alien expressions unreadable. Finally, one member, previously neutral, spoke in Kale's favor, citing the strategic benefits of self-governing colonies that could maintain loyalty voluntarily rather than through force. The motion was narrowly rejected, but Kale felt a sense of accomplishment. He had delayed a policy that could have harmed thousands of lives, buying time to find better solutions. Kale returned to his quarters exhausted but determined. The weight of responsibility never lessened, and every decision felt like a gamble. Yet, he also recognized something important. Humans were underestimated not because they lacked strength, but because their qualities, adaptability, empathy, courage, were hard to measure. That was their secret advantage. During a rare moment of rest, Kale allowed himself to think of Lyra. He remembered her laughter echoing through the corridors of New Eden, her hands skillfully repairing habitat structures, her voice calm but commanding when settling disputes among settlers. He realized that love and duty were intertwined. Protecting humanity meant protecting the people he loved, and sometimes that required making choices that others could not understand. The first real test of Kale's ingenuity came when a Surith ambassador proposed a covert operation on a frontier colony, suspected of resisting council oversight. The mission involved installing advanced surveillance systems, subtly influencing leadership, and ensuring compliance through pressure rather than force. To Kale, it was clear. This was the first step toward the Council's broader plan to control human settlements without their consent. He requested a private audience with the ambassador. In a tense meeting, Kale presented an alternative approach. If we empower colonies rather than manipulate them, they will remain loyal, productive, and innovative. Coercion breeds resistance, but trust fosters loyalty. Humans are clever, resourceful, and capable of self-governance if given the chance. The ambassador studied him with interest, his luminous eyes flickering as if weighing possibilities. "You are suggesting a risk, Commander Aaron. Autonomy could lead to rebellion." Kale leaned forward, his voice steady. "Or it could lead to prosperity. Humans have a history of surviving against impossible odds, thriving in environments that others deem uninhabitable. You underestimate their potential, and that underestimation could be costly." The ambassador nodded slowly, not committing but clearly considering Kale's argument. It was a small victory, but victories in the council were rarely absolute. Every word, every decision, every action required strategy, patience, and careful calculation. Meanwhile, Kale continued communicating with Lyra. She reported a mysterious increase in patrols around New Eden, along with unusual signals that suggested the Surith were testing new surveillance technologies. Kale realized that time was critical. He needed to balance his council duties with the growing urgency of action on the ground. Kale convened a secret strategy session with the sympathetic council members. They shared information about Surith operations and discussed ways to subtly protect human colonies without exposing their plans. It was a delicate game. One wrong move could alert the council's more ruthless members and destroy their efforts. Despite the pressure, Kale found moments of inspiration in human ingenuity. He marveled at the clever solutions devised by colonies to conserve resources, develop renewable energy, and defend themselves against natural and artificial threats. Every innovation reinforced his belief that humans were extraordinary, not because they were the strongest or fastest, but because they combined creativity, courage, and empathy in ways few other species could. Weeks passed, and Kale's influence within the council grew. He was no longer an observer but a participant shaping policy with subtlety and intelligence. He learned to negotiate, persuade, and anticipate moves before they were made. Yet, every success carried the shadow of potential failure. One miscalculation could cost lives, not just his own. One evening, Kale received a message from Lyra marked urgent. She had discovered evidence of a planned Surith operation targeting multiple human colonies simultaneously. The plan was designed to test compliance under pressure, using fear and control rather than diplomacy. Kale realized the Council's darker agenda was closer to reality than he had feared. He worked through the night, analyzing the data and devising a counter-strategy. He coordinated with sympathetic council members and Lyra's network of colonies. Using a combination of human ingenuity, knowledge of Surith technology, and creative thinking, Kale crafted a plan to protect the colonies while exposing the Council's intentions. As dawn broke over the Surith capital, Kale felt a mixture of fear and resolve. The coming days would test everything he had learned, everything he valued, and every human quality he hoped to preserve. He was beginning to understand the true meaning of power. It was not merely the ability to command, but the responsibility to use influence wisely and compassionately. For Kale Aaron, the council seat was no longer just a position of authority. It was a battlefield where human values would face their greatest challenge yet. He knew that the choices he made in the coming days would determine not only the future of human colonies, but also the legacy of humanity itself. And in that quiet moment, as he gazed at the stars through the observation deck, Kale made a vow to himself. He would protect the colonies, preserve freedom, and honor the humanity that had carried his species across the stars. Whatever trials lay ahead, he would face them with courage, intelligence, and heart. Kale Aaron paced the observation deck of the Eclipse, the soft hum of the ship's engines filling the silence. The stars stretched endlessly before him, distant and cold, yet alive with possibilities. This was no longer a time for strategy alone. The moment of action had arrived. The Surith High Council's hidden plan threatened multiple human colonies, and Kale knew He could no longer rely solely on diplomacy. The safety and freedom of countless lives rested on the choices he made now. Lyra's encrypted messages had been relentless, providing updates from New Eden and nearby colonies. She had organized covert networks, secured resources, and gathered intelligence on the Surith's movements. Every report underscored a simple truth: humans were underestimated, and this underestimation was their advantage. Kale smiled faintly. He had always believed in human ingenuity, and now it would be tested in ways he could not yet imagine. The Council, unaware of Kale's growing alliances, proceeded with their plan. Patrol ships were being dispatched, surveillance systems deployed, and colonies marked for compliance tests. Kale had to act quickly, coordinating with sympathetic Surith Council members and the human networks Lyra had established. Timing, precision, and creativity would be crucial. Kale convened a secret meeting aboard the Eclipse, bringing together trusted Council allies and human operatives. "We face a threat that is not just military but moral," he said, his voice steady yet urgent. "The Council plans to control colonies through fear and manipulation. We cannot allow that to happen. Our goal is to protect them while exposing the Council's intentions. Humans will prove their strength through ingenuity, resilience, and unity." The group began planning an intricate operation. Using intercepted Surith communications, Kale identified weak points in patrol schedules and gaps in surveillance coverage. Human colonies would be prepared with emergency protocols, decoy transmissions, and hidden defenses designed to protect lives while revealing the Council's abuses. Every action had to be coordinated across light years, a delicate dance of strategy and trust. Meanwhile, Kale maintained his public presence in the Council. He continued to attend sessions, appearing compliant while subtly steering discussions away from harsher policies. His human intuition allowed him to anticipate the Council's moves, exploiting their reliance on logic to mask his true intentions. He knew that one misstep could expose him, but he also knew that humans were capable of extraordinary feats when faced with impossible odds. Lyra worked tirelessly from New Eden, sending coded updates to colonies across the Rim. She ensured that settlers were ready to respond to Surith interference, training them in defensive tactics and rapid communication. Kale marveled at her leadership. Even separated by vast distances, their partnership remained unbroken. They complemented each other, Kale with strategy and diplomacy, Lyra with execution and human ingenuity. The day of the Surith operation arrived. Patrol ships moved into position around key colonies, and surveillance systems activated. Kale, aboard the Eclipse, watched the unfolding events through multiple channels, heart pounding. He had prepared contingency plans, but real-time execution would test every decision he had made. As the Surith approached New Eden, Lyra's network activated. Decoy transmissions fooled the patrols into believing the colony was fully compliant, while hidden defenses protected critical infrastructure. Small but strategic human teams disabled key surveillance nodes, creating confusion and delaying the Surith's response. Kale monitored every move, adjusting plans and issuing instructions to Council allies who were covertly assisting him. The operation spread to other colonies, each responding with a combination of preparation and improvisation. Humans adapted quickly, using limited resources in innovative ways. Drones were repurposed for reconnaissance, automated farming equipment became barriers, and communication arrays served as both warning systems and misinformation tools. Kale observed with pride. These were not soldiers or diplomats. They were humans, resilient and clever in ways the Surith had never anticipated. Back in the Council chambers, tension ran high. Some Surith members began noticing discrepancies in colony reports and patrol effectiveness. Kale maintained a calm demeanor, offering logical explanations while concealing the truth. He understood that human behavior often defied expectation, and he relied on that unpredictability to create space for action. Hours passed, each moment a test of patience and precision. Kale coordinated attacks on surveillance nodes, ensured that colonies remained safe, and guided human teams through improvisation when plans deviated. His mind raced, balancing strategy, ethics, and timing. Every decision had consequences, but every choice reinforced his belief in humanity. Lyra's voice came through the comm link, steady and confident. Kale, the patrols are confused. They're regrouping, but they haven't realized the colonies are resisting intelligently. Your diversion worked perfectly. Kale allowed himself a brief smile. Good work, Lyra. Keep them on the defensive while we expose the Council's plan. The final phase of the operation involved revealing the Surith's intentions to the wider galaxy. Kale and his allies compiled evidence of the planned interventions, sending it to neutral parties and sympathetic council members. The revelation spread quickly, causing outrage among species who valued autonomy and fairness. The Surith High Council, previously untouchable, faced unprecedented scrutiny. Amid the chaos, Kale knew that he faced his most personal choice. The Council's most powerful position, the one he had been offered at the start, was now within reach. With it, he could seize authority, influence policy, and perhaps reshape the galaxy according to his vision. Yet taking power would come at a cost: Lyra, the colony's trust, and the very human values that had guided him. He stood on the observation deck, staring at the stars. The universe seemed indifferent, vast and unknowable, yet Kale felt the weight of responsibility pressing down. Power was tempting, but he realized that leadership without heart was empty. True strength lay in protecting life, nurturing freedom, and trusting in the abilities of ordinary humans to rise to extraordinary challenges. Lyra appeared beside him, her presence steadying him. "Kale," she said softly, "you don't need their approval to make a difference. You've already saved countless lives. The choice isn't between power and morality, it's between ambition and what you truly value." Kale met her eyes, finding clarity in the warmth and resolve reflected there. He knew what he had to do. He would not seize ultimate authority for himself. Instead, he would ensure that the Council's overreach was exposed, that colonies retained their freedom, and that humanity's ingenuity and spirit were recognized across the galaxy. In a decisive move, Kale submitted a formal report to the Surith High Council, detailing the planned interventions, the human responses, and the ethical violations inherent in their strategy. He presented evidence objectively, allowing logic to support the moral argument. The report caused a sensation within the Council, sparking debates, investigations, and reforms. Simultaneously, colonies responded to Kale and Lyra's guidance with coordinated initiatives. Systems were fortified, communication networks optimized, and settlers demonstrated remarkable adaptability. The Surith, though technologically superior, found themselves outmaneuvered not by weapons or force, but by human creativity and cooperation. Kale coordinated one final operation to secure the Outer Rim colonies. Using a combination of diplomacy and strategic positioning, he ensured that Surith forces could no longer interfere without consequences. Humans proved their ability to protect themselves while maintaining their values, a testament to resilience, intelligence, and heart. As the dust settled, Kale returned to New Eden aboard the Eclipse. Lyra greeted him on the landing platform, her smile radiant. "You did it," she said simply. Kale shook his head, smiling back. "We did it. Humanity did it." Settlers from the colony gathered to celebrate, sharing stories of clever tactics, quick thinking, and moments of bravery. Kale observed them, filled with pride. These were the people who made humanity extraordinary. Their courage, adaptability, and compassion unmatched even in a galaxy dominated by advanced civilizations. In the aftermath, Kale declined any permanent council position. He had learned that true power did not come from a title or seat of authority, but from the ability to inspire, protect, and empower others. The Surith, forced to reconsider their approach to human colonies, recognized humanity as a species to be respected rather than controlled. Kale and Lyra stood together on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. The galaxy remained vast and unpredictable, full of challenges yet to come. But they had proven that humans, underestimated for centuries, could rise to meet any obstacle through intelligence, resilience, and heart. Kale placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "We've made a difference," he said quietly. Lyra nodded. "And we'll keep making a difference, one choice at a time." Kale reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He had faced temptation, moral dilemmas, and unimaginable pressure. Yet he had chosen love, humanity, and integrity over personal ambition. In doing so, he had not only protected countless lives, but had also shown the galaxy what it truly meant to be human. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a reminder that the universe was full of challenges, but also full of possibilities. Kale and Lyra knew that together, and with the spirit of humanity guiding them, they could face anything. The story of survival, ingenuity, and courage was far from over. It was only beginning. And in that moment, amid the quiet hum of the eclipse and the glow of distant stars, Kale understood the answer to the question that had haunted him from the start. Between love and power, humanity would always choose what mattered most.